Imagine a huge stadium, bigger than any playground you've ever seen. Bright lights shone down, making everything sparkle. People were packed together, buzzing with excitement. It felt like a giant party was about to start, but instead of cake and games, everyone was waiting for a boxing match. Not just any boxing match, but a fight featuring the amazing Muhammad Ali. The air crackled with energy. You could almost taste the anticipation. Fans waved banners, cheered, and called out Ali's name. They were ready for action, ready to see their hero dance and punch his way to victory. The announcer's voice boomed, building the suspense even higher. He introduced the fighters, drawing out the moment. Every second felt like an hour. Everyone knew that soon, the bell would ring, and the real show would begin. But first, they had to wait. This wait, however, was about to be interrupted in a way no one could have predicted. But the interruption wasn't a sudden storm or a power outage. It was something much smaller, but just as powerful in its own way. From somewhere in the middle of the crowd, a baby started to cry. Not just a little whimper, but a full-blown, loud, and persistent cry. It was the kind of cry that seemed to go right through you, bouncing off the stadium walls and filling every corner. At first, people tried to ignore it. They figured the baby would quiet down eventually. But the crying just kept going, louder and more insistent with each passing minute. It was like a tiny, insistent alarm clock, refusing to be silenced. The happy buzz of the crowd started to fade, replaced by grumbles and sighs. The excited anticipation began to turn into restless frustration. People shifted in their seats, whispering and frowning. What was going to happen? The sound echoed, a tiny, desperate plea against the roar of the crowd. It was a cry that seemed to punch through the noise, demanding attention. Some people started to yell, "Quiet the baby!" or "Take it outside!" They were impatient and just wanted the fight to start. They didn't understand that sometimes, little people have big feelings, and they don't always know how to control them. It was a sound that cut through the growing tension. It wasn't the baby's fault, of course. Babies cry. That's how they talk before they learn words. But in a place like that, filled with so much noise and excitement, a crying baby was definitely not part of the plan. The constant wailing was a jarring sound that nobody wanted to hear during the countdown to the big match. It was a real problem, threatening to ruin the atmosphere for everyone. Imagine being the mother in that situation. She probably felt like she was the only person in the entire stadium. All eyes seemed to be on her, judging her every move. She bounced the baby, she shushed the baby, she offered a bottle, she did everything she could think of, but nothing seemed to work. The baby just kept crying, and the mother's face grew redder and redder with each passing wail. She looked around, her eyes filled with worry. She could feel the stares of the other fans, some annoyed, some sympathetic, but all focused on her. It was a parent's worst nightmare, a public display of helplessness. She felt a wave of embarrassment wash over her. She wished she could disappear, or at least make her baby stop crying, but she couldn't. She felt trapped, stuck in the middle of a huge stadium with a screaming baby and thousands of impatient eyes. What could she possibly do? Just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse, something incredible happened. The crowd suddenly went quiet. It wasn't the kind of quiet that comes from boredom or annoyance. It was a hushed, expectant silence, like everyone was holding their breath. All eyes shifted towards the entrance to the arena. And there he was. Muhammad Ali, the greatest boxer of all time, stood at the edge of the boxing ring. He was already dressed in his boxing gear, ready to fight. His boxing gloves gleamed under the bright lights. He looked like a superhero, ready to take on any challenge. But instead of heading straight to the ring, he started walking towards the sound of the crying baby. It was a sight no one expected, a champion turning his attention to something so small and seemingly insignificant. What was he going to do? The crowd watched in stunned silence, their impatience forgotten in the face of this unexpected turn of events. He approached the mother, his large figure looming gently. She looked up at him, surprised and confused. He leaned down, his voice surprisingly soft for such a powerful man. "Excuse me," he said. "Would you mind if I held your baby for a moment?" The mother hesitated, unsure what to do. Here was Muhammad Ali, a legend, asking to hold her crying child. It was the last thing she expected. She glanced at the baby, then back at Ali, a question in her eyes. Was he serious? The crowd remained completely silent, watching the interaction unfold. Finally, she nodded, carefully handing her baby to the boxing champion. A collective gasp seemed to ripple through the stadium. This was something no one would ever forget. What would happen next? The crying stopped. Not instantly, but gradually, like the volume was being turned down on a radio. As Ali held the baby, a hush fell over the entire arena. It was a silence so profound you could almost hear your own heartbeat. Thousands of people, all focused on one small baby in the arms of a boxing legend. It was a surreal moment, a scene so unexpected it felt like something from a dream. Every eye was glued to Ali. The restless shuffling and grumbling had vanished, replaced by complete stillness. Even the announcer seemed to have forgotten his microphone. The world held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. It was a moment suspended in time, a shared experience that transcended the excitement of the upcoming fight. All that mattered was the image of Muhammad Ali holding that tiny, precious life. Even with his large boxing gloves on, Ali held the baby with incredible tenderness. He cradled the baby close to his chest, gently rocking back and forth. It was a slow, rhythmic motion, like a gentle dance. He hummed a soft, almost inaudible tune, a lullaby meant only for the baby's ears. His face, usually stern and focused before a fight, softened with compassion. He looked like a giant teddy bear, providing comfort and security. The contrast was striking. A powerful fighter, known for his strength and agility, now showing such gentle care for a tiny, vulnerable infant. It was a side of Muhammad Ali that few had ever seen, a glimpse into the heart of a champion. The rocking motion continued, a soothing rhythm in the silent arena. The baby, sensing the calm, relaxed against Ali's chest. And then it happened. The crying stopped completely. The baby, finally soothed by Ali's gentle touch and the rhythmic rocking, drifted off to sleep. Its tiny chest rose and fell softly, a peaceful contrast to the earlier distress. A collective sigh of relief seemed to sweep through the arena. The sight of the sleeping baby in Ali's arms was incredibly touching. It was as if all the tension and frustration had simply melted away. The crowd, who just moments before had been impatient and annoyed, were now completely captivated by this unexpected scene of tenderness and peace. Even the toughest-looking men in the audience had a soft smile on their faces. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated sweetness. The champ had won, not with his fists, but with his heart. As the baby slept peacefully in his arms, Muhammad Ali bent his head and gently kissed the baby's forehead. It was a tender, almost reverent gesture, a silent blessing. The kiss was so light, so delicate, it barely seemed to disturb the baby's sleep. But it spoke volumes. It was a symbol of compassion, of understanding, of the simple human connection that transcends fame and fortune. It was a moment that etched itself into the memories of everyone present. It was a scene they would recount for years to come, a testament to the kindness that can be found even in the most unexpected places. The simple act of a kiss transformed the arena from a place of anticipation and tension to a sanctuary of peace and love. It was a reminder that even the greatest champions are, at their core, human beings with the capacity for extraordinary empathy. Carefully, ever so carefully, Muhammad Ali turned and walked back towards the mother. He moved slowly, deliberately, as if carrying the most precious treasure in the world. He reached her and gently lowered the sleeping baby back into her arms. As he did so, he gave the mother a warm, genuine smile. It was a smile that radiated kindness and understanding, a silent acknowledgement of the challenges and joys of motherhood. The mother looked back at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. She couldn't find the words to express how thankful she was. She simply smiled back, a silent thank you that spoke volumes. The transfer was complete, the baby safely back in its mother's arms. The moment of peace, however fleeting, had left an indelible mark on everyone who witnessed it. The atmosphere in the arena had shifted, transformed by an act of simple human kindness. As he turned to finally head towards the boxing ring, Muhammad Ali paused, looked out at the silent crowd, and spoke. His voice, though quiet, carried through the arena. "Even champions need a moment of peace," he said. The words hung in the air, simple yet profound. They were a reminder that everyone, regardless of their strength or status, needs moments of calm and tranquility. It was a message of humanity, a recognition that even the fiercest competitors have a need for connection and empathy. It was a lesson that resonated deeply with everyone present, a reminder that true strength lies not only in physical power but also in compassion and understanding. With those words, he turned and walked towards the ring, leaving the crowd to ponder the deeper meaning of what they had just witnessed. The fight was about to begin, but something far more significant had already taken place. The boxing match that followed was exciting, of course. Ali danced and weaved, punched and dodged, showing the skill and power that made him a legend. But for many of those in the stadium that night, the memory of the fight itself faded with time. What remained clear and bright was the image of Muhammad Ali holding that baby. The act of kindness, the moment of peace, the display of compassion, these were the things that truly resonated. They were a reminder that even in the midst of competition and conflict, there is always room for humanity. That a champion is not just someone who can win a fight, but someone who can touch a heart. And that sometimes, the softest gestures can leave the most powerful impact. It was a softer punch, perhaps, but one that landed with far greater force than any blow he could deliver in the ring. It was a victory for kindness, a triumph of the human spirit, and a story that would be told and retold for generations to come.